The festival of lights rose over Valora Prime like a living ocean. Crystal towers shone with soft blue fire. Ribbons of color drifted in the air, guided by tiny gravity wells that artists shaped with their hands. Music pulsed through the palace floor, calm at first, then wild and bright. It was the one night each cycle when the great queen Zarina allowed her war banners to rest. Even soldiers laughed. Even old rivals smiled. Peace felt possible. Queen Zarina stood at the highest balcony, tall and fierce, her armor like black glass carved by storms. Beside her sat two small figures on a cushioned bench, her twin daughters, heirs of Valora. The older one with calm golden eyes, the younger one with bright, playful silver. Their bioluminescent skin glowed softly under the floating lanterns. They waved at the crowd, and the crowd shouted back with love. "Stay near," the queen said, her voice warm but steady. "Tonight is beautiful. Do not wander." "We won't," the older daughter said. She always answered first, slow and sure. "We promise," the younger said, already leaning forward, ready to jump into excitement. Guards in dark cloaks formed a ring around them. Advisors stood behind the queen. The royal musicians began the ancient welcome song. In that moment, Valora felt safe. Then a ripple passed through the palace air, too small for the human ear, but the aliens felt it. The lanterns flickered. The music fell one note out of tune. The queen's eyes narrowed. She looked at the control dais where two technicians worked. One gave a small, nervous nod. Systems were normal, they claimed. But the queen did not believe. Years of war had trained her senses to trust small things. "Double the perimeter," she ordered. At the same time, on the edge of the jungle moon that orbited Valora Prime, a human engineer named Captain Elias Ward woke to darkness. His habitat's lights were dead. His last clear memory was the storm, a hard pulse from the star that crashed through the colony grid. He had sealed the hatch just in time. Then the world went black. He had been alone for days, he thought. It was hard to tell without the clock. He lay on his back on the narrow bunk, one hand under his head, the other reaching for the lamp that should have lit at touch. It did not. The air recycler hummed weakly. He exhaled and tasted metal. Not great, he thought, but not death. Then he felt weight across his chest, warm, soft, heavy, like a sleeping animal. Elias froze. He listened. Faint breathing. Two rhythms. He turned his head slowly. The small emergency light near the floor gave everything a low red glow. Shapes were shadows, but he saw the outline of something curled on him. No, two somethings. Delicate limbs. Small hands. Faint glow like moonlight under skin. He did not move. His training rose. Observe first, act second. He lifted his eyes to the hatch. It was sealed from inside. The vent near his head was open. He had widened it 2 nights ago so warm air could move better. Could something have crawled in? He reached toward the side table in slow motion, trying not to disturb the weight on his chest. His fingers found the old pocket lamp, the one with a manual shake cell. He shook it once, twice, 3 times. The bulb woke and filled the small room with a tired white circle. 2 faces rested on his chest. They were beautiful and alien. Smooth skin with a soft bioluminescent glow, protective head crests like small translucent shells. Royal insignias, delicate and complex, sat across their foreheads like faint tattoos. One girl's eyes were closed, lashes long, skin shimmering silver blue. The other's eyes were half open, gold like sun through honey. Both were tiny, maybe 9 or 10 human years by size. They were wrapped in a thin fabric that looked expensive even in this light, now torn at the edges. Elias did not breathe for 3 seconds. In his chest, something tight broke. He was not a father. He had never even been an uncle. He had lost people, yes, his company in the last conflict, his crew on the transport down to the moon. But he had never held fragile life like this. He felt heat where their faces pressed against him. He felt their small hands curl into his shirt. The older one's fingers gripped as if the fabric were an anchor. He turned the light away from their eyes and spoke very softly. "Hey," he said, "it's okay. You're safe." The older girl's gold eyes opened all the way. She stared at him silent. Her pupils adjusted wide in the dim light. She moved a little but did not pull away. Her lips parted and a whisper came in a language he barely knew. His translator implant, a cheap, half-broken device, clicked, struggled, then formed a phrase. "Please," she whispered. "Do not let them find us. Elias felt the room shrink. Them. Who? He looked at the younger girl. Her breathing was a bit fast. Small tremors moved across her shoulders. He touched the back of the younger girl's head crest with 2 fingers. It was cool. Too cool. It's all right, he said. I'm Elias, I won't hurt you. The older girl's eyes filled. Not with fear, something else. Relief. She did not smile, but the tension in her jaw softened. She pulled her sister closer and rested her head again on his chest as if his heartbeat was the only sound she trusted. Far above, back at the palace, the festival turned to panic. The twins had vanished. 1 second they were in their cushioned seat. The next second the guard saw an empty space and a flutter of torn fabric. No scream, no stumble. Only absence. Queen Irina's roar ended the music. Seal the palace, she shouted. No one enters. No one leaves. Sensors scanned. Doors locked. Walls hummed. The queen moved like a storm through corridors, guards at her sides. She reached the place where her daughters had sat. The air was colder there. Her fingertips brushed the arm of the seat. It carried a faint metallic taste, not from her world. Foreign technology. Her mind went through the library of enemies, threats, tricks. Then, like a knife, a thought. The human colony on the jungle moon. Rumors said they had strange tools for transport. Rumors said they were too curious, too brave. Track any off-world signatures, she ordered. An advisor bowed, afraid. Majesty, there is a trace leading toward the jungle moon, yes. But the signature is not clear. Clear it, the queen said. Find my blood. The first human colony warning blared through the canopy that covered the jungle moon like a living roof. The signal bounced from station to station, then went silent. In the distance, a distant thunder rolled, engines, big ones. Elias heard none of it yet. His habitat was half underground, wrapped in rock and rooted vines. It was warm inside, except near the vent. He slid the lamp onto its stand and slowly sat up. The girls shifted, but they did not let go. He kept a hand on each small back, steady and gentle. We need heat, he said. You're cold. He reached for the blanket at the foot of the bunk and draped it over them. The older girl moved her sister's head to keep the blanket away from her crest. Maybe it was sensitive. He watched and copied, folding the fabric around their shoulders and tucking the edges under them so the blanket would not slide away. What are your names? He asked. The older girl spoke a string of shapes that the implant could not handle. The device looked for matches and failed. She tried again, slower. The implant returned 2 soft words in human mode. Aria and Lyra. He did not know if those were exact, but they were close enough. Aria, he said, nodding toward the older. Lyra, he said, nodding toward the younger. I am Elias. Aria blinked once. Approval, maybe. She pulled Lyra's hand to her own chest and squeezed it, as if to say, We are together. Are you hurt? Elias asked, Aria thought. She ran her hands along her sister's arms, then her own, checking. Cold, she whispered. Tired. She looked at the vent. We climbed the tunnel. We ran from, she stopped. Her jaw tightened. It's okay, Elias said. You can tell me later. He stood, moving slow so they could adjust. Their small bodies slid with him, still holding on as if his presence were gravity. He lifted them a little, shifted them to the side, and set them gently on the bunk. The mattress dipped. Lyra made a small sound, a half-dream whimper, then went quiet again. Elias crossed to the emergency heater. He had kept it for nights like this. He set it near the bunk and started it on low. He clicked, coughed, then hummed. Warmth came like a sigh. He checked the air recycler. The filter was dusty. He banged it against the counter, then reseated it. The hum smoothed. He poured water into a small pot and set it on the induction plate. The plate flickered, then caught. The faint smell of boiled metal filled the air. He mixed 2 sachets of nutrient broth and stirred with a finger, checking the temperature. Aria watched every move. You can trust me, he said. I know I am a stranger, but I am not your enemy. She nodded once. Not enemy, she whispered. Then a pause. Many enemies. He passed her the cup. She took it in both hands, careful, ceremonial almost. Steam rose. She sipped. Her face changed. Not joy, not surprise. Something simpler. Safety. He passed another cup to Lyra, who stirred awake and reached for it like a sleepwalker. She drank and coughed. Aria steadied the cup, hand under hand. The sisters looked at each other, a tiny moment shared. Then the quiet cracked. A distant thud rolled through the earth. The heater's flame trembled. Dust fell from the vent. A second thud followed. Not nature, not weather. Landing craft. Elias went to the wall and pressed his palm to the old brass scope. It slid open and showed a narrow view of the jungle outside. Tall black trunks, broad leaves, drops of glowing sap falling like stars. In the far distance, through a gap, he saw lights in the sky, lines of fire drawn downward. He knew that signature. Valoran warships. He closed the scope. He looked at the girls. Arya's gold eyes were wide, not with fear now, but with decision. She stood from the bunk, still small under the blanket, and moved to his side. "You did not take us," she said in careful human words. "They will not believe. If they see us with you, they will kill you." Her voice did not break. It had a queen's shape inside a child's body. "Who took you?" Elias asked. The question rose like a reflex. He needed facts. He needed to know the field. Arya's jaw clenched again. She raised 2 fingers and drew a symbol in the air, a sharp curve with a cut through it. The implant searched and gave a quiet note, no match. But Elias knew the look on her face. Betrayal. Someone from inside the palace. He exhaled. "Okay, then we hide. I can keep you below. My shelter has a crawl space. It is tight but warm." Arya tilted her head. "You would hide us?" "Yes, why?" Elias opened his mouth, then closed it. He thought of his company on the transport. He thought of the pilot, a friend who had turned the ship so debris would hit his side, not theirs. He thought of one decision to protect small life. "Because you are children," he said, simple and true. "Because someone hurt you." "Because I can help." Arya's eyes shone. She reached out and touched his wrist with 2 fingers. It was a gesture he had seen on broadcasts from Valora, a sign of respect from a lesser to a greater. But here the meaning flipped. She gave honor to him. "Then we trust you, Elias," she said. The thuds grew closer. The air began to pulse, not just sound but pressure. He picked up Lyra, who still held the cup. Arya stayed at his side. He crossed to the storage wall and pulled a crate aside. Behind it lay a low hatch common in human habitats, a maintenance tunnel. He lifted the panel. Warm air kissed his face. Inside, between pipes, was a space big enough for 2 small bodies and 1 human arm. "You 2 go in," he said. "I will close it from outside. I will stay near and keep the soldiers away if I can. If they break in, stay silent. Do not move." Arya looked at the hatch, then at him. "The soldiers follow the queen follows her rage. She will not listen." "Maybe she will," he said, "if we live long enough to speak." Arya crawled in first, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. She reached back. He passed Lyra to her. Lyra blinked, then nodded, trusting her sister's touch more than any word. Elias placed 2 small masks beside them, filters just in case. He gave Arya a tiny light with a cloth wrapped around it to make it dim. "Only if you must," he said. Arya took his hand. "You are brave," she whispered. "No," he said. "Just stubborn." A deep vibration shook the habitat. Outside, leaves screamed against each other in hot wind. Elias lowered the hatch. It clicked. He slid the crate back into place and dragged a metal rack in front of it. He wiped his palms on his shirt. His heart pounded, steady and loud. He crossed the room and picked up his old sidearm. It had 2 charges left. He set it down. He picked up instead a tool, an arc wrench with a heavy head. He opened the main hatch lock and left it on the last latch, so it would look sealed but could move an inch with a strong pull. He took a breath and stood in the center of the room. Footsteps. Outside on the soil. Many. A voice shouted a command in Valoran military tongue. His implant caught enough to give him sense, perimeter, breach, human inside. Elias lifted his eyes to the ceiling. He pictured the crawl space. He pictured the 2 small shapes, the dim light, the steady breath. "Please," he said to no one, and to someone, and to the idea of mercy. "Please." The hatch slammed. The last latch held, then broke. The door burst inward. Light roared across the small room as armored figures flooded the threshold. Tall, dark, faceless behind glass. Elias did not reach for the sidearm. He raised both hands, empty. "I am Captain Elias Ward," he said, voice clear. "You are on a human research site. State your—" The soldier in front lifted a weapon, but a voice behind them cut through the chamber like a blade. "Hold." The soldiers froze and stepped aside. Into the doorway walked a figure like a storm-given bones. armor like dark crystal, a cloak that moved as if it had its own mind, eyes bright and burning, Queen Zyrina. She looked at Elias as if he were a knife pointed at her heart. She took one step inside, two. She did not raise her weapon. She did not need to. "You," she said, voice low. "Where are my daughters?" Elias felt the heat of the heater at his back, the cold of the floor under his bare feet, the air in his lungs that refused to run. "I don't know," he said, "the truth. But I know this, if they come here, I will keep them safe." The queen's eyes narrowed to slits. Her head tilted, the motion of a hunting animal. For one small second, the world stopped. Then from beneath the floor, a small sound rose, a soft, sleepy sigh. The sound of a child shifting closer to a heartbeat. The queen's gaze snapped to the crate. Elias did not move. The queen's shadow filled the small human shelter. The air burned cold. Her eyes glowed like molten gold as they locked on Elias. The soldiers around her raised their weapons, ready to strike. But before she could command, a soft thump sounded beneath the floor. Every head turned, the queen's expression froze. Her sharp gaze darted to the crate. The soldiers aimed at it instantly. Elias's pulse roared in his ears. He took a small step forward, voice shaking but firm. "Don't," he said. "They're children." The queen's glare cut through him. "Move," she ordered. Elias stood still. "Please, listen to me. They're scared. They're not hurt. The queen lifted her arm. Energy crackled in her palm, ready to strike. But before the blast could form, a small, frightened voice rose from under the crate. "Mother?" The word pierced the silence. The queen's hand trembled. The sound of her daughter's voice, faint, weak, real, rippled through her armor. She stepped forward slowly, her chest heaving. Elias moved the crate aside with both hands and opened the small hatch. Two glowing faces stared up at the queen. Her heart almost stopped. "Arya, Lyra," she whispered. The twins crawled out of the hatch, eyes wide, clutching each other. Their glow pulsed brighter at the sight of her. Lyra stumbled forward, but Arya held her back. The queen dropped to her knees, armor scraping against the floor. She opened her arms, but Arya shook her head and hid behind Elias's leg. That single act broke something inside the queen. The soldiers stared, frozen between duty and confusion. The queen rose again, towering over Elias. Her voice turned sharp, cold. "What did you do to them?" Elias raised his hands. "I saved them. They came here on their own. I found them hiding. You dare lie to me?" "I'm not lying," he shouted, his voice cracking. "They would have died out there. They were freezing." Arya stepped forward, shaking. "He saved us," she said softly. "He gave us heat and food. He didn't hurt us." The queen looked at her daughters, her soldiers, then back to the human. Her voice lowered. "You touched royal blood. By Velaran law, your life is forfeit." Elias stared right into her golden eyes. "Then take it," he said quietly. "But not in front of them." The queen's jaw tightened. She studied him, seeing no fear in his face, only exhaustion and strange courage. Her daughters clung to him, not her. That sight struck deeper than any wound. Without another word, she turned away. "Seize him, but do not harm the children." Two soldiers grabbed Elias's arms. He didn't fight. The queen walked out, her cloak trailing firelight behind her. Her daughters followed at a distance, looking back with tears they didn't understand. Hours later, in the upper deck of the queen's flagship, the interrogation chamber glowed with sterile blue light. Elias sat in a metal chair, his wrists bound by magnetic cuffs. His face was calm but tired. Queen Zyrina stood before the window, staring at the distant lights of the jungle moon. The reflection of her own daughters flickered in the glass as they slept on a couch behind her. "You could have killed them," she said at last, voice low. "I know," Elias said, "but I didn't." "Why?" He looked up. "Because they're children." The queen turned. "And what do you know of children, human?" Elias didn't answer at first. His throat felt dry. "Nothing," he said finally, "except that every life deserves a chance, even royal ones." The queen studied him for a long moment, as if searching for deception. There was none. Only a man who had already lost too much. Her general entered then, a tall, armored alien named Rakar, his eyes cold and calculating. "Majesty," he said, bowing, "we found traces of teleport residue near the palace. The signature matches forbidden tech, human design." The queen's eyes narrowed. "You mean this man's colony?" "Yes, Majesty. The humans must have stolen—" "No," Elias interrupted. That's not human tech. We don't have teleportation that precise. Rakar's head turned. Silence, human. But the Queen gestured for him to continue. Explain, she said. Elias leaned forward. When I found them, there was a shockwave. My systems picked up an energy pattern. Felleran energy, not ours. Someone on your planet used forbidden power to send them here. Rakar's expression flickered only for a second. The Queen noticed Elias saw it too. The attack came from inside your palace, Elias said softly. Didn't it? Rakar stepped forward, voice rising. Enough of this nonsense. He's trying to divide us. But Arya's voice came from behind them, small and clear. He tells the truth. Everyone turned. The girl stood barefoot on the cold floor, her golden eyes bright. We saw him, she said. The one who tried to kill us. The one who used the teleport crystal. The Queen moved toward her daughter, kneeling. Who, my child? Arya hesitated. Her gaze drifted toward Rakar, who froze like stone. The Queen followed her eyes. Rakar's hand moved toward his weapon. In one smooth motion, the Queen struck first. Her blade shot from her wrist armor, catching his arm mid-motion. Sparks burst. He fell back, roaring, his weapon skittering across the floor. Soldiers rushed in, surrounding him. You betrayed the throne, the Queen said, her voice shaking. You dared touch my blood. Rakar spat, dark blood on the floor. You grew weak, Serena. You trusted the humans. You trusted peace. I did what must be done to return Valora to power. The Queen's eyes burned like suns. You will die for this. Elias looked at the chaos, at the trembling girls, and stood. Stop, he said. You'll start a war that never ends. If you kill him now, his followers will rise against you. The Queen turned, blade still drawn. You think I should let him live? Not live, Elias said. But show justice, not vengeance. The Queen's lips parted to argue, but her daughters ran to Elias's side, holding his hand. That small gesture silenced the entire room. The Queen looked at them, then at him. Her weapon retracted with a hiss. Take him away, she ordered. He will face the council. The human stays under my guard until this is over. The soldiers dragged Rakar out. The Queen's voice dropped to a whisper. If you lie, human, I will make your death slow. Elias met her gaze. If I lied, I'd already be dead. Later that night, the ship drifted above the glowing jungle. The Queen stood alone in the observation dome. She had removed her armor, now dressed in a silken mantle that shimmered like liquid night. Her reflection looked less like a queen, more like a mother lost in stormlight. Elias entered quietly, escorted by 2 guards. He bowed slightly. You wanted to see me. The Queen didn't look back. My daughters trust you, she said. They cling to you as if you were one of their own. Why? I don't know, he said. Maybe because I didn't treat them like royalty. I just treated them like people. The Queen turned, studying him again. You risked death for them. For a species not your own. Elias shrugged weakly. Maybe that's what makes me human. The Queen's lips curved into something strange, a shadow of a smile or maybe sorrow. She stepped closer. The light from the planet painted her face in blue and gold. My world teaches fear of outsiders, she said quietly. We tell our children that humans are dangerous, but my daughters slept on your chest and lived. Elias looked at her. Sometimes danger and kindness wear the same face. You just have to look closer. They stood there for a long moment, neither speaking. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Then an alarm sounded. The Queen's communicator flared to life. Majesty, a soldier's voice shouted. Rakar's followers have taken a cruiser. They're heading toward the ship. They want the heirs dead. The Queen's eyes hardened instantly. Battle stations! She rushed past Elias, her cloak flaring like a storm. Keep my daughters safe, she shouted. Elias ran the other way toward the lower deck. He reached the chamber where Arya and Lyra were resting. The lights flashed red. The ship trembled. They're coming, he said. We have to move. Arya grabbed her sister's hand. Where? Elias pointed toward the maintenance tunnels. Same place we hid before. Go. Lyra hesitated. Mother, I'll find her, Elias said. Go now. They crawled inside. Elias sealed the hatch, heart pounding. Then he turned toward the corridor and saw the wall split open with enemy fire. A blast threw him against the wall. Pain burned through his shoulder. He rolled and grabbed a fallen weapon. Smoke filled the air. Alien soldiers poured in, led by Rakar himself. Armor cracked, eyes wild. Elias ducked behind a console, firing short bursts. Blue plasma sliced the air. One enemy fell. Another rushed in. Elias swung the rifle like a club, hitting hard. Rakar advanced slowly, dragging a blade behind him. You protect them still? He growled. They are not your kind. Elias bled from the arm but stood tall. Doesn't matter, Rakar lunged. Elias blocked with the rifle, sparks flying. They struggled, strength against desperation. The human's feet slid across the floor. Rakar's blade grazed his neck, but Elias twisted, driving the rifle butt into the alien's jaw. The queen appeared behind Rakar, her blade flashing. One strike, clean and final. Rakar fell, his armor splitting open, his last breath hissing out like steam. Elias sank to one knee, coughing. The queen grabbed his arm and pulled him upright. You're bleeding, she said. So are you, he muttered. The queen almost laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Then her gaze softened. You have done more for my daughters than all my armies. Elias tried to speak, but the pain caught his breath. The queen placed her hand on his shoulder. Her power flowed through him, warm, strange, alive. Rest now, human, she said softly. You've earned it. That night, when the battle ended and silence returned, the twins ran to Elias's bedside in the medbay. Arya hugged him tightly. Lyra pressed her small, glowing hand to his heart. Don't leave, she whispered. I'm not going anywhere, he said, smiling weakly. The queen stood in the doorway, watching them. For the first time in her life, she felt something new, respect for a human, and deep in her heart, a question she could not answer. Was this man her enemy? Or the reason her world might finally find peace? The sun of Valora Prime rose like a blade, red and bright across the golden horizon. The Queen's flagship drifted over her planet's capital, smoke still curling from the night's battle. The air inside the ship was heavy with silence and the smell of scorched metal. Captain Elias Ward woke to that silence. His shoulder burned, his head pounded, and his arm was wrapped in silver healing fabric that glowed faintly. When he opened his eyes, he saw two familiar faces beside him, Arya and Lyra. The girls smiled softly, their skin glowing with warmth again. Arya whispered, "You're awake." Elias tried to smile back. "I told you I'd stay." Lyra giggled, small and tired, and placed a glowing flower on his chest. "Mother made this," she said proudly. "It helps with pain." Elias looked down at the strange bloom. It pulsed like a heart. "She made it?" Arya nodded. "She uses her power to heal." Before he could thank them, the chamber door opened. The queen entered, her armor removed, wearing a dark robe that shimmered with royal blue threads. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried storms. Elias sat up slowly. "Your Majesty," the queen raised a hand. "Rest. You are still weak." "I've been worse," he said, forcing a faint grin. She looked at him for a long moment, studying the man who had risked everything for her children. "My healers say you lost much blood. Yet when they found you, you were shielding my daughters with your own body." He shrugged. "They were closer to me. It just made sense." The queen's lips pressed together, part confusion, part disbelief. "No soldier would have done that for an enemy." "I'm not your enemy," Elias said simply. Silence followed. Only the hum of the engines filled the space. The queen turned her gaze to her daughters, who now watched quietly from the side. "Go to your quarters, my stars," she said softly. "I must speak with him alone." Arya hesitated. "Mother," the queen's voice turned warm. "You are safe, go." They left reluctantly, holding hands. As the doors closed, the queen faced Elias again. "You are a strange man, Captain Ward," she said. "You entered my life through chaos, disobeyed every law of my empire, and yet, you saved the only two things I truly love." Elias leaned back against the bed. "You'd have done the same." The queen tilted her head. "Perhaps, but I would have done it out of duty." "You did it out of something else," he didn't answer. His throat tightened. After a long pause, she spoke again. "The Council of Lords demands your execution. They say no human can touch royal blood and live." Elias's eyes met hers. "And what do you say?" She didn't reply at first. Then she walked to the window and looked down at the planet below, the shining towers, the broken streets, the marks of war. "I say my world has followed cruel rules for too long," she said quietly. "Rules that nearly cost me my children." She turned, her gaze fierce and clear. "But if I spare you, I risk rebellion. The nobles already whisper that I am weak." Elias looked at her, calm. "Then tell them I'm your prisoner. Keep me here until they forget. The queen blinked. You would accept that? He smiled faintly. I've lived alone for years. A cell with a view sounds better than a crash shelter with no sunlight. For the first time, the queen laughed softly. The sound startled even her. You are not what I expected from a human. Most of us aren't, he said. A small pause hung between them. Then the queen's communicator chimed. A soldier's voice spoke urgently. Majesty, the council is gathering. They demand the human's presence for judgment. The queen's expression hardened. Prepare the hall of judgment, she ordered. I will bring him myself. The grand hall beneath the palace was vast and cold. Pillars carved from starstone rose high into the mist. The floor glowed faintly, powered by the planet's core. Thousands of aliens stood in rows, murmuring as the queen entered with Elias by her side. Chains of light hung around his wrists. Not real restraints, but symbols of captivity. The queen walked before him, proud and calm. The Council of Lords stood on a high platform. The eldest among them, Lord Varric, leaned forward. Your Majesty, he said, his voice deep and sharp. This human broke our highest law. Touching royal blood is death. Will you honor Valora's traditions or will you defy them for this? Creature? The crowd hissed in agreement. The queen stepped forward. He is no criminal, she said. He is the savior of my daughters. Without him, the royal line would be ash. Varric's eyes burned. He might have saved them, yes, but that does not erase the sin. Findai,